All I have to say for this movie is her web connects us all. Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we are chatting about Bill Condon's latest movie musical, Kiss of the Spider Woman. This one premiered at Sundance. I got to see it there. It had a special early screening in Palm Springs where I live, where I got to see it there again. So I'm very excited to talk about this film, especially now with a very well needed refresher. The Kiss of the Spider Woman is an adaptation of a novel which was previously adapted in the 1980s/90s, I can't remember which was then adapted into a Broadway musical, and now we're kind of combining all of those into Bill Condon's version. This film stars Jennifer Lopez, Diego Luna, and Tonatiuh. If you are not familiar with this film, this story, you have a lot of different adaptations that you can watch. I do recommend watching the 1985 film starring William Hurt. He won an Oscar for his role in it. It's a very different film from this adaptation. Obviously, a lot of similarities are found here, but it's always really interesting to compare the first version versus the second version in any case. Following a similar story from all of these adaptations, we have Valentin, played by Diego Luna, who plays a political prisoner who shares a cell with Molina, played by Tonatiuh, a window dresser who has been convicted of public indecency. This all takes place during the Argentine military dictatorship, where a lot of dissenting opinions and people who were against the government at the time were placed into prison. To help the time go by, these two form an unlikely bond by having Molina recount a Hollywood musical that he absolutely loved when he was younger, starring his favorite silver screen diva, Ingrid Luna. If you know and love Bill Condon's films, a lot of the same pizzazz and flair can be found in this one. He wrote Chicago, the Best Picture winner from the early 2000s, and I would say that this film is a very good comparison to that. Both of those stories have these fun elements in them, these show-stopping musical numbers, but they're all set in the backdrop of some very dark times, and they deal with some dark subject matters. I also think of Cabaret from the 1970s with Liza Minnelli, very similar. Fun musical numbers, but set within a very difficult time period in history. Focusing on the movie musical part of this film, in which Jennifer Lopez is, oh my god, divine. FYC Jennifer Lopez. We let this woman down with Hustlers. She totally should have gotten a Best Supporting Actress nomination. I swear, if we let her down again, I will come after you. But she is fantastic in this film. It's one of those roles where you are just like, oh yeah, why haven't we been casting Jennifer Lopez in musicals? This woman can sing, she can dance, and oh my god, is she showing us such show-stopping numbers? It reminds me so much of all of these Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers films, in where we're seeing her full body, we're seeing her nail every single dance move, and she is like leaping from man to man at one point. She's jumping off of tables, she's like shaking and shimming. It is just so fun to see what she can do, and like I said, if we do not get her nominated, there will be consequences. All of the production design and the costumes during these moments, too, are just so fabulous. They scream old Hollywood. There is so much glitz and glamour. I love the makeup and the hairstyling on her. I think all of these tech aspects are very strong contenders for the Oscars. It might be a bit of a tight field, but I could definitely see a world in which they find their way in. And again, it reminds me a lot of Beauty and the Beast from Bill Condon, for example. There are so many gorgeous dresses and gowns that she wears in this film that are just so perfect for her body, that really stand out, just kind of like the yellow gown does in Beauty and the Beast. These very rich environments that she finds herself in, it's just so lush. In particular, there is one scene a little bit later toward the film where she is dancing in this green gown It is a big sequence number where she's dancing from man to man. It reminded me so much of Marilyn Monroe's number, Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend moment. You'll know it when you see it, what I'm talking about. So even though the political prison moments aren't as colorful as the movie musical numbers are, I do really like the juxtaposition that Condon has with those two sequences. You have this vibrant richness with the musical, you cannot wait to get back into the story, but then when we jump back into their life and we see them in this cramped prison cell, these very dark, drab colors all around them, they're so dirty, they are barely getting any sleep. It's such an interesting contrast between the two of them, again, leaning into the dark subject matter, those dark musicals that I mentioned earlier. I really enjoyed the relationship that forms between Diego Luna and Tonatiuh's characters. It is very captivating. It's so interesting to see them going from these two men who just really don't care about each other, especially Valentin. He very much keeps to himself. He doesn't want to hear about this Hollywood story, but even he cannot help but be entranced by the way that Molina is telling this story, the way that he is so excited to talk about Ingrid. It's just so lovely, and I think that both Diego and Tonatiuh do a fantastic job. This is Tonatiuh's breakthrough role. He was previously on Netflix's Carry On, where he had a small role in it, but I mean, he is kind of like the star of the show here, aside from Jennifer Lopez. I just love the sincerity and the kindness through his eyes, even though he is just being put through so much. It's an incredible role. I would love to see a little bit of awards recognition for him too, if it's possible. This relationship and eventual love story that forms between Valentin and Molina just reminded me a lot of Brokeback Mountain. Two men who went into something not knowing each other, didn't really know what was going to happen, and then eventually leads into something very special. I do think that the pacing does start to drag a bit in the second half of this film. I think the first half is very much allowing you to settle in and to get a good sense of both of these worlds. But then after a while, I think that it starts to get a bit repetitive. Even the musical itself starts to get a little choppy and kind of goes in and out, and you're like, wait, what? What is happening? Molina does preface it by saying that it certainly was not the greatest film of all time, that it might be like a B or a C movie. And so I do kind of appreciate that it kind of went in that direction, but I just feel like it loses a little bit of its charm, it loses a bit of its steam, and ultimately you're like, oh wait, what's happening? How is the Spider-Woman involved in all of this? And ultimately too, I think the last 20-15 minutes of the film just kind of go on for a beat too long. But overall, I thought that this was a really fun, lovely time. I give this film 3.5 out of 5 stars. Again, the performances are truly incredible. They are ones to watch out for. I'm really keeping my fingers crossed for Miss Lopez. We need to get her to the Oscars somehow. Thanks guys so much for watching, and we will see you here next time.